ABSTER has taken a good beating the other day, but we are seeing some great signs of recovery and strength forming on the chart. And yeah, we're just going to go over everything that has happened since the last update video that I gave. The first thing that I wanted to address were a couple whales selling. They sold quite a bit of ABSTER. I think it was like 700k to a mil worth of ABSTER in a very short period of time, causing a sudden crash, which swiftly got bought up. And obviously, the last time we had a whale exit a good amount, someone sold like 200k in like 2 clips or something. And we ended up continuing down here, and then we ranged sideways for a bit and continued down even further. So who knows what if that's going to happen this time. I think we shouldn't put too much emphasis or significance on what happened last time one whale exited a good amount, because realistically speaking, it's never going to follow the exact same pattern as it has before, especially when there are so many external factors that affect the chart. So, will we go down? I'm not sure. I'm not a short term guy. Like, you're never going to be able to predict what happens short term. This is a perfect example. A couple whales sell, and that completely ruins your whole idea of what was going to happen in the short term. It's spontaneous. You cannot predict it. Okay, but yeah, we're just going to go over everything that happened. The whales sold, got eaten up, lots of signs of strength. Okay, and I wanted to just go over my tweet, which is a good reminder of not just ABSTER, but meme coins in general. So from the peak, the all-time high, to the low, it was a 50% decline, okay? And 50% is a good amount. I'm not going to say it's not. But if you look at literally every single other meme coin, they all have multiple 50% declines from their all-time high. In fact, all of these examples here are more than 50% decline. So Pengu's a good example. This was a 91% drawdown from this high right here all the way down to the bottom. Okay, 91%, and it came back. Okay, Pepe, it had an 86% drawdown, then a 61% drawdown, then a 65% drawdown. Then there's Bonk, a 96% drawdown, not including the wick because that would have been like 99% or something, but 96%, and it ended up running very, very much later on. Toshi, another good example, does a 90% drawdown, and it ends up running to 900 million. So, what's the point? The point is, you can check basically every meme coin, and I guarantee I had multiple 50% drawdowns from all-time highs before running again. ABSTER from the local high to recent low is 50%. It is definitely possible to go further down. If you get dips like this, you use them to your advantage. So what's the theme with all of these coins? Well, the theme with all of these coins, which had massive drawdowns and ended up running very amazingly later on, is the fact that they have strong narratives. And this leads us to ABSTER. We all know the ABSTER narrative, and we're going to keep going later on in this video to more advancements to the thesis that have made things a lot stronger, in my opinion. And the thesis is shaping up very well. So when you get these dips on a very good narrative or a coin with a very good thesis, then you definitely have to take it to your advantage. It's very important also to understand that if you buy here, your risk and your reward is less. So sorry, there's more risk, there's less reward, but when you're buying dips, there's a lot more reward and a lot less risk. So let's just say, for sake of argument, we end up heading to 500 million. This was from a tweet I created, the bear case. Okay, let's see. This would be a 2000% return. So if I'm not wrong, it should be like a 20x, right? And if that's a 20x compared to at 40 million, a 20x compared to a 10x. So it's a very big difference. If you're buying the bottom, it is a much better situation. Now, I want you guys all to think of all the people that sold early. We've seen people like this guy right here who sold at whatever price this was, 18 million market cap, probably an average sell of 18 million market cap. He sold $200,000 worth. If he was holding today, that would be like $300,000 worth. And if he held on into the future, all the way up to 500 million, it would be worth a lot more than that. And you could see the guys that sold here, there's definitely a big whale that sold here. These guys would have been up a lot more. They were selling at like 11 million market cap. They would already be up 3x, and they're going to be up way more once the thesis finally plays out. And to all the whales selling here, I think it's pretty interesting that they sold. I understand some people want to take profits, but in my eyes, I don't think there's any real indication that the thesis has played out yet. Obviously, we are getting promotion from Abstract, but we haven't got any of the key events like a token generated event. We haven't gotten marketing that has started yet. We are waiting for some very key moments when Abstract will push their chain, and eventually ABSTER will follow that growth as it has so far. Okay. And I also wanted to go over one more guy. I wonder if I could find his wallet. He this was the first guy that bought. He aped 16K at this market cap right here. And then he sold all at a 7 mil or below 7 mil market cap. If this dude was still holding, well, he would have had this many. Wait. He would have had 1%, 1.3, almost 1.4% of the supply. So if he had held instead of selling, right now he would be up about like $400,000, and he sold very early. It's pretty crazy that a lot of these guys, these whales, at the time he was a big whale because Abster, no coin on Abstract had seen that big of a buy, but a lot of these whales are selling, and it's just funny because so far all of them have gotten wrecked because they sold too early. And Abster's thesis is so strong, I'm very confident that the same thing will happen. But yeah, let's get into the Toshi chart as well. I mentioned it here, but Toshi had a massive drawdown before it ran very heavily. And the reason why I like looking at Toshi is because several things. Number one, it was the mascot of base, and the reason it was kind of the mascot of base, the unofficial face of the chain. ABSTER is the official mascot of the chain, so it's a lot stronger of a narrative inherently. But I also wanted to talk about the whale group that sold ABSTER. So the whales that sold ABSTER also were whales that were selling here, and it's quite funny because once they sold and they were all out, that meant that Toshi had free air. Basically, because there were no whales left to sell, Toshi was able to boom very massively for quite a bit of time. I mean, you're talking about what, almost a 5x, I guess a 4x from this peak right here all the way up to this peak here. And the fact that this requires millions and millions of dollars to do because the market cap was much higher than ABSTER, it's pretty insane to consider. But yeah, I mean, the whale group, I'm sure they still have some tokens to sell, but and they did catch Toshi very early, but they could sell more, and very likely this distribution is actually a good thing in the long term. It's short-term pain for long-term gain, and that's just what crypto is. You got to be patient, and that's how you make money. Be patient, let your thesis play out. Okay, and next I wanted to go into the more fundamental updates regarding Abstract. Okay, so this is one specific thing that Lucanet said. Mentions how CEX listings are coming very soon for some of our favorite meme coins.
See some sex listings for some of our favorite coins here shortly. So I've been working.
Okay, I mean that's basically it. He says I've been working on that. He's also mentioned that he works with all the meme coins very often, right? He wants everyone on his chain to succeed, and it's very interesting because once he said that, that was actually one of the things that I think fueled this run. So I think we priced in a centralized exchange listing on ABSTER, but now that we dumped heavily again, I'm pretty confident that we, I guess, unpriced it in, right? So usually you think, oh, we're pricing in the move. Then when the move happens, people will sell the news. And maybe if the news is better than expected, we'll continue up a little bit, right? But in this situation, we priced in the news, but then we came all the way back down and even below it, below where the news happened. So I think that if there is a centralized exchange listing for ABSTER, then I think there's a good chance we get a good spike in the price. Now, why would I think it's ABSTER? Because if you look at every single other abstract meme coin, none of them really have a high market cap. I think my face cam is blocking, but obviously ABSTER is a 33 million market cap. And if we go by market cap, the only other coins with high market caps are Pengu, obviously, which has like every centralized exchange listing possible, and then Google, which is 10 million. So everything else is below 10 million. And realistically speaking, exchanges don't really want too much risk when they want to list a meme coin. So they typically go for higher market cap coins. If there were a coin on Abstract that's most likely to get an exchange listing, it would definitely be ABSTER. And so I'm very much looking forward to that. But we'll see what happens. I don't want to get too excited before anything happens. It's probably going to be an exchange like Mexi anyways that doesn't turn the needle. But yeah, that's something interesting to consider. Obviously, Luca is helping all these guys, and even if the first exchange listing is small, I do expect Luca to give these teams the connections they need to have big exchange listings as well. Obviously, Luca got Pudgy Penguins listed on Binance day one, and I think Coinbase very soon after. So he has all these connections to all these different teams, and he wants the meme coins to succeed. And this is very interesting again for ABSTER because this can cause a positive feedback loop to the upside. Where let's just say they get a Mexi listing and it pumps it a bit. Okay, well now they get another listing and it pumps it a bit. And then they get another listing, it pumps it a bit. And as time goes on, these bigger exchanges like Binance and Coinbase will get closer and closer to wanting to list ABSTER. So that's very interesting to consider. Obviously, there are going to be some other coins that probably come up and are able to do that, but right now in the foreseeable future it doesn't really seem like that. So yeah, very interested to see what happens there. Next thing is about the abstract team. So Saigar said we added an Easter egg of Abster running across the portal many months ago. Only a couple have found it. This is pretty interesting. It's just a cool little feature, but the main point I'm trying to make here is not only that they're promoting Abster, but now they're actually saying his name. I noticed quite a bit before whenever they were, I guess, shilling or promoting Abster, using Abster, they wouldn't really say his name because then it's kind of too much connection to the coin and they probably don't want that risk. But recently we've seen quite a bit of change on that. So another example. Thank you, Rare Evo, for the Best Newcomer Award. We had a blast handing out almost 2,000 Abster plushies. Once again, they're naming Abster specifically. I could show you several more examples. This is the most notable one. Lots of Absters here at Rare Evo. Okay, so who's this guy? This guy doesn't even work for Abstract. He's the head of business development and partnerships at OpenSea. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make here, this is a very interesting point, is that I think the abstract team is telling or told this guy to specifically make a tweet like this. Why? Well, because I've already mentioned this in previous thesis videos, and it's very interesting to see it now starting to play out. But Luca needs meme coins to succeed. If there's not a 200 million or 500 million or $1 billion runner on his chain, then his chain is basically a failure. He wants to be competing with base. He said this many times. If he wants to compete with base, then he needs some meme coins that are gonna shine and do great things and go to high market caps. Okay? And how can he do that? Well, he can't shill any meme coin. You can't shill a meme coin. As a chain, it would look very bad. If the coin rugs, then it looks very bad as well. But what he can do is just put his mascot everywhere. If he puts his mascot everywhere, then, well, he wasn't shilling a meme coin. He was just putting his mascot everywhere because it's the mascot. And it's not their fault that a community member created a coin called Abster, right? It's not his fault. And he has zero liability. But this kills two birds with one stone. Now he can promote Abstract because obviously you could use the character to promote Abstract. You see this character, you think of Abstract, and you get to use it as marketing for the coin, which then pumps the coin, which then makes your chain look better. And I said this a while ago. It's very interesting to finally see it play out. And it's, yeah, a lot of people didn't understand that idea, but I hope you guys see it now. And I hope you see that they are going to continue doing this. And speaking of that, okay, wait, this is one more example of them specifically saying Abster's name. Okay. Speaking of marketing, I remember saying in one of my previous videos, remember what happened at Token 2049 Dubai and when this pump happened? I think it was here. Yeah, it was here. Right? They started marketing the chain at Token 2049. And that was really the only example of marketing that they did. And now they did marketing. This was also paired with the centralized exchange listing news that Luca said on that interview, but they also did marketing for the the abstract chain at this rare Evo event, and they used Abster, which I definitely think had an impact on the price action. So what am I getting at? Whenever they market the chain, they are going to use Abster, and that's going to cause a pump on the chart. So let's listen to what Lucas says here.
Because we're working on one big giant monster update that's going to really change the experience. And then I think like once you see that update come, you're probably gonna see like us, announce a fundraise. So another thing is like capital constraints. We haven't had tens of millions of dollars to open the marketing floodgates. I don't need that much.
Did you hear that? Open the marketing floodgates. So in this interview, you could definitely hear what he says about marketing as well. That's what they're doing the raise for. But he said this more explicitly in an inner igloo as well. He said basically they're doing a raise so that they can market the chain because marketing the chain will cost money.
But having a huge treasure chest is something we've never had over at the Igloo or in either of our respective companies. And so I am fundraising for Abstract, and so being able to pull the fuel on the fire. So I think you're going to see those kind of tangential in the sense that like you're going to see this huge monster portal update that's going to change how everyone looks at it. And then I think you're going to see alongside it, a huge fundraise. And then I think you're going to be that's when I would put my mental clock of like, okay, it's about to go crazy because we're working on one.
Okay, so getting into this is very interesting because they've done a bit of marketing for the chain, but they have done nowhere near what they want to do. And it's basically been a whole meme since the chain launched. Like, when marketing? When are they going to start marketing? And Luca has been explicit. He doesn't explain too much here, but I've listened to so many interviews and also the inner igloo meetings where he goes more in depth about this stuff. And he explains explicitly that they didn't feel they had the product good enough before or for them to do marketing. So they want to upgrade it first. So that's one big thing. They're going to be actually upgrading the portal and also be working on many big apps that will be coming to the portal. They're also working on an iOS app. So they've got a lot of things coming for Abstract in the near future, a lot of app deployments coming. And then once they do that, they will do a fundraise for Abstract. So that will be essentially selling tokens and raising money. And then once they do that, they will start marketing the chain. Okay? What do you think he's doing all this for? Well, if you want to think of it logically, because that's what we should do with everything, it's very likely that what he's doing is he's trying to set up for a token generated event. Eventually, we already know they want to launch an abstract native token. The point is, he wants as much momentum going into the token generated event as possible because you don't want to just launch your token and it dies. So, with that being said, I think he's working on this revamp and working on the fundraise and working on the marketing to eventually have a token, which, as we already went over in many different videos, would mean it's a very bullish event. It would be a liquidity injection directly into Abstract. It would be very good for the popularity of Abstract, along with the push that they will make towards the token generated event. So it's a really bullish scenario, and a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people are not cluing in to the fact that Luca is going to be pushing this chain as hard as possible, and he will put, because we've seen this before, ABSTER everywhere. And once ABSTER is everywhere, that is when the fun begins. So I'm very, very excited. It's definitely somewhat dependent on Bitcoin, obviously. The whole market is dependent on Bitcoin. And I'd say this is the biggest risk for the thesis. I'd say the biggest risk for the thesis is Bitcoin has topped. Do I think it has topped? I don't think so. Does that mean I'm right? No, I could be wrong very easily. But just something to consider, right? If Bitcoin starts going down and enters a bear market, nothing can go against the tide. It's very unlikely. So just keep that in mind. But I think we're good. When we see Bitcoin breaking all-time highs and Lucas starts marketing the chain and everything enters mania mode, then that is when the fun begins. And that is when we will see a massively bullish situation for ABSTER. I wanted to bring it back to the Toshi chart. If you look at this chart, I mean, it pumps really hard randomly, and then it side trades for a bit, and then it pumps really hard, and it goes down a bit, and then it pumps really hard. The point I'm making is this is really crypto. You could check the same on Bitcoin, really, right? It randomly pumps so hard, and then it side trades, and then it pumps very hard, and it side trades. The point I'm making is these moves that happen, that whether it's up or down, really, they happen pretty violently most of the time. And you could see this on the ABSTER chart. And look at how many people get caught out. No, so many people got caught out on this move, and so many people got caught out on this move and this move. And you could just go back and check all of the times it's boomed. it sometimes it's steady growth. This is the 4-hour chart, but if you look on the daily, it's pretty violent moves to the upside. And so realistically, it's only a matter of time before we see that, and I expect many more violent moves to the upside, especially once they start marketing the chain. So, with that being said, I mean, I'm so bullish. We are heading into one of the best times of the crypto market in general. I would say September's typically a bearish month, so keep that in mind. And once again, short term, I don't know where we go. We could go down, we could go up, we could side trade. I have no idea. But over the long term, I am very confident that this thesis will play out. And when I say long term, I don't mean like several years. I definitely think long term can mean like a couple months, because we do have a short term narrative and the long term narrative. Long term narrative is abstract, becomes a lot bigger than we think. The short term narrative is related to the marketing and push heading into TGE. But one more thing before I end the video, I want to talk to you guys just about a principle of buying in max fear. Max fear on ABSTER chart, it seems was here. The amount of people on the timeline on X that I saw that were fudding this coin, even some community members got scared that, oh, ABSTER's done for, whatever, this whale group is going to kill it. And the reality is, even if there is someone that holds a lot of the coin and they're going to dump and people are going to sell, that's short term pain. Any coin with a good narrative comes back. And buying in max pain is always going to be the best risk to reward situation. You just have to choose the best coins with the best narratives, which we know ABSTER has. So if you look at something like Solana, during this situation, so many people were afraid. And if you look here, the absolute bottom, obviously that was the max fear situation. But anything under 30 was really a very fearful situation. Everyone was afraid at this point in time that FTX was going to sell all their Solana and crash the chart a ton. There's a big whale and they're going to get out and it's going to crash the chart and Solana's going to die forever. That's what everyone was saying. But people like me and many of my friends, and I know so many people, bought Solana in this area and they had one of the best trades this cycle. And it's a very similar situation with ABSTER. We hit peak fear and now I think it's time for this massive move like Solana had. We will have other examples of dips that come on the chart and you could use those to your advantage. But why would you buy a dip when we go to 100 mil and then we go down to 50 mil when you could just buy now and then you'll be up 2x by the time we hit 50 mil? So with that being said, I will update you guys if anything else is notable. But for now, things are looking very good in the short term and in the long term. And I'm really excited for the updates Abstract will bring and the marketing that they will do.